Today's chat is brought to you by, well, all of your support. Through the patronage you provide the Focus Fire chat team through Podbean's crowdfunding, we are able to provide you with the weekly podcast as well as the website and other aspects of Focus Fire chat. If you have any interest in becoming a patron of the FFC, please be sure to visit our website and click on the support link. Even a single dollar helps, and for those of you who are already patrons, thank you again for your generosity.
You may have heard the whispers of guardians gathering in the shadows, exploring the mysteries of this world and the worlds which surround us. We are all in search of truth. Sometimes we need to focus that search. Focus that fire. And so we come together. Welcome to Focused Fire Chat.
Welcome to Focus Fire Chat, recorded live on April 3rd, 2020 over on twitch.tv/FocusFireChat. As always, want to give a big shout out to our live chat here with us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us once again. This week's episodes are going to be focused around exploring game world creation with a special focus on populating those worlds. This particular episode will serve as what we have come to call the intro session for the week's exploration. Before we go any further, however, let's run through a quick introduction of who all we have with us on the show. As always, this is your host, Blue Crew 86.
And this is the only non-Texan in this chat tonight, so...
you have to say your name, Green.
Oh yeah, Green-Eyed Music Lover.
I totally
Great.
left
this
that.
Is gonna...
I totally left that in there for the last one. Like this, and this is me.
Yes.
Well, and as you can maybe guess from Green's intro, there we also have the man who has had many compliments given to him, but I think the one that he likes the best is the voice of the flower, JustInsane. Is Justin still with us?
Though? Is he sane though? Just the giggles in the background.
I'm with you.
I'm with you.
I'm here. I'm finally here. Hey guys, what's up? It's nice to be back. Just nice to be around and do things.
Yeah,
see things, which is nice.
Are you seeing things? How's the seeing things doing for you?
You know, I don't have the internet, so there's no snake memes.
Well, there's also no Tiger Man memes then.
Oh, but I like Tiger Man.
And last but definitely not least, the hot seat as guest co-host we have with us our good friend SirenaBesos. Morgan,
hey.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Yes, my name's Morgan. I go by SirenaBesos on Twitter, Instagram, and Discord. So
nice.
She's got all the names. She's got all the names.
So
hey, you is acceptable sometimes, you know.
Morgan, you're a friend of Josh's, right? Like,
yeah,
we know you through
from Josh. Yes.
Yes. Blue was actually
blame Josh for this.
Blame Josh for this? Well, I mean, blame Blue for this. We always blame Blue. It's just the easiest. It's just the easiest. Makes things less complicated. But so okay, my question, very first question of the whole thing is why, this is going to sound really weird, why did Josh suggest you? Like, what experience do you have with populating game worlds that really kind of puts you in a position where somebody like Josh, who is a very, very intelligent young man. Josh is a young man. Yeah, just like
strapping young lad.
Your qualifications. It's been a long week, guys.
Yes, it has. My qualifications are basically I met Josh through D&D. In town, there's a place called Vigilante Gastro Game and Pubs that we met playing D&D at. I started DMing there after the first year, so within the second year. I am also started doing podcast work and various other live streams of actual plays as well. So I do D&D, Power by the Apocalypse games, and a whole bunch of slew of one-shot page stuff. And so I've kind of just dived in the deep end on the creative aspect of game design and all that. So right now I'm currently one of 3 hosts and the game masters for Powered by the Players, which is Powered by Apocalypse games that we run either one shots or mini campaigns for. So
nice. And how many players are you often generating these worlds for? Are you generating them for like a small group of like maybe 3 or 4 people? Or are you doing it for like large campaign type things?
So when I did D&D with Vigilante, the average table at max was 7 players.
Okay.
So that was in like a quarter of having about 5 to 7 players. When I do live streams, it's typically about 4 to 5 players, and then with my Powered by the Players or any of my podcast work, it's usually like 4 to 5 players as well. So
nice.
I like keeping odd numbers for players, just makes it easier for like people to play off of each other too. So
yeah, so people don't end up pairing up so easily.
Yeah.
Nice. Blue. Those are going to be my extra questions on there. What kind of questions do you have for?
I don't really have any questions because I think that's going to just basically be the entire discussion is the questions.
Right.
Wow. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me at all.
Justin, let's do the inquiry.
I am ready. Hold on. Let me just.
What's oh gosh. Justin has, oh no. What? Proceed, Justin. Proceed.
Yep. Okay. You have the floor, good sir.
Oh, I did never thought Blue would let us go through with this. When we talk about, you're gonna have to excuse me. I'm not really up on like D&D and stuff like that. When you talk about world building for D&D, is this electronic or like old school?
For me, it's more old school, where like you actually plan out the world, you figure out what the plot's going, how they met, and then from there, just sort of to tell you which direction to go. Because you can plan things, but 9 times out of 10, they're not going to follow that plot that you're trying to pass them. They're gonna toss it out the window and then just make it their own ball out of paper mache and hope. Like,
yep.
I love how generous she is about this.
I mean, she's
I'm being honest.
Oh no, she's not wrong at all. It's just paper mache is really sturdy.
Gosh.
Well,
so
it depends
like
on how many layers you put on there.
Oh, well, fair.
It'd be just like one, and just like mainly just Mod Podge, and then it'd be like 20 different layers, like and with like 50-second sets of like Mod Podge on it, like straight up for a day.
When you're trying to create like a campaign for something like D&D, is it a blank canvas for you to work with, where you basically can send them in any direction that you want, or are you working within the framework of like a larger overall universe and that the narrative happens in?
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was like, I'm just gonna say, are you using like specific editions and books out of that more so? I guess. Are you using like the Baldur's Gate storyline or certain other storylines that have been established over the years?
When I ran D&D, and sometimes when I still do, I don't run it as often as I run like Powered by Apocalypse games, because D&D is a good, I'm sorry to sidetrack for a hot second, D&D is a good game to get people into playing tabletop games, but and the play style itself isn't what I want in a game. So I tend to go to more narrative play styles, which I could probably explain later. But going specifically to D&D, when where I was with Vigilante, I worked with about 7 other Dungeon Masters, where we all sort of created this plot and this lore and the story together, figured out what the constraints were within the game itself. This most recent season, quote unquote, we started for Vigilante. There's handbook, and then eventually, as chapters went on, we add more playbooks because they're released. They unlock certain things, so on and so forth. So some people were like, yeah, cool, whatever. I'll just throw spaghetti against the wall and we'll just see what sticks. But I like having sort of like confines and control of what games I'm designing. Not only be able to like keep my cats in a nice basket and they're not escaping, because Lord, no, they do.
Yeah, that's a nice way to describe it. Just players, random cats just going all over the place wherever they want.
And they're like, well, can I play this Strowlin Unearthed Arcana Ranger? I'm like, what?
I want an orc bard who can also do ranger stuff. It's like, you do what are you doing?
I'm like,
having fun.
I mean, I respect your creativity, but within the means of D&D,
no.
Together to see if we can find something, but like, And
I like that.
rules. Like,
I love that you sound like a social worker at like a temp agency. We'll try to find something for you, but we'll see. Okay,
which means no.
You can't be a unicorn Hydra. You can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like
the thinly veiled impatience.
No,
it feels like home.
So creative, and I really want to give him props for that. It's just sometimes within the setups and the parameters that Dungeons and Dragons, for example, because we're still talking about that system in particular, the parameters that system sets up, it's just like it's hard to like really push and like buckle in someone into those like races and classes and backgrounds because there's only a certain set stuff and all that. But I mean, I ain't got time for that. Like.
Homebrew takes forever to do.
Not to mention you gotta like test it out and make sure it's balanced, and then like make sure that everything's like I'm good. Power to them. I'm glad that they have the creative nitty gritties to work out the mechanics like that. I just want to play the game, honestly. Like I just want to get into a story with friends.
So when you're telling your stories or when you're directing, because basically that's what a DM is, they're kind of directing the story, right? Like they're the ones helping guide where everybody's going, but it's collaborative in so much as you want your players to also tell the story. How do you encourage your players to do that to as much as your liking? Because I know every DM's a little different. Some DMs are like, no, we're only doing battle scenes or whatever.
I hate fights.
Yeah.
I'll do dungeon crawls and stuff, but that's just not my jam. But how to get my players in is that with D&D itself, since we're still talking about this design itself, I actually take from other game designs, like building session 0 games. So I'll like have session 0s where like we'll learn how the character develops, make connections. There's various that you can steal from Power of the Apocalypse games, Kids on Bikes, even create town that they're starting in together. Like you would on Kids on Bikes or any of the other I'm trying to think of Kids on Bikes, Monster of the Week. A lot of them have location placed, all work and develop together, so everybody has a hand in the story.
I gotcha.
So you're more of like a freeform theater game style.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm very improv-y as well when it comes to stuff, because they'd be like, yeah, we're gonna do this. I'm like, all right, give me 5 seconds. All right, let's do this. Like, I sometimes you just gotta roll with the punches and be completely frustrated and locked into a system. So
yeah, because I mean that's
true.
I mean that's so true too. Because like that's one of the things is like as much as I love D&D, the reason I'm a big fan of D&D 3.5 was because our group that I usually played with back when I was playing it, we were so familiar with D&D that we would have homebrew rules that allowed us to do kind of what you're talking about, like be that flexibility of a group. And our DM was very, very, very knowledgeable about it. And so it wasn't a big deal for him to just kind of, we would do shenanigans all the time that should not ever happen. And he was just fine with it. But
I honestly think that's fine too, because I think people who are like rules lawyers or anything like that just stick to the constraints of going around this is how it's going to be. I'm like, well, I mean, you can be creative within those means, but also like, other than that, I don't have the brain space to like remember all the rules in the 300-page player's handbook. So I'd be like, yeah, is that what you can do? Okay, cool, whatever. Like, sure. And then if I get told later, like, oh, that's not right, I'm like, oh, whoops, my dang. Hey guys, you can't do that anymore. Sorry.
yeah, exactly. Well, and it's like our ground rule, like the one rule that we weren't allowed to break was we had to make it make sense. So like it was just it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, if you can't technically do it, but if you can do it and it makes sense, like if you can explain it in a way, it was like you would get at least the first time before he could check on it. He's like, all right, whatever. It seems reasonable. And then he'd come back and be like, okay, you can't do that again. Like out of game is always the way that we kind of always handled those. I think the one time that we actually got told no was when we tried to kill a troll by giving it a hug when one of us was on fire. because we rolled one of our. It's like one of my favorite stories. Like, it happened twice. Is the reason we got in trouble. The first time it happened, it was the result of a nat 1. He was our bard thief character was trying to throw a lantern at a troll that was attacking us because it was fire, and he rolled a nat 1. And proceeded to dump the oil on top of himself, and he was holding the torch. And his response was, without hesitation, was, "I light myself on fire," and give him a tackle. And the DM, to his credit, was basically the response to him was, "Roll a touch attack." Like it's like he's like, "I don't even know how to do this." Like. And so we got away with it. And then, of course, that became the staple attack of that particular character because, why not? And it was quickly debunked by our DM after that. He's like, "You've killed enough trolls. They've figured it out. It's no longer valid."
Learned.
Yeah. The species figured out, hey, don't mess with this guy. He lights himself on fire. But
suicide monk.
Yeah. Oh, God. No, that was always my character, was the one who is, hey, how can I get a sneak attack in here? It's like what is it? I think it was AD&D. You could sneak attack with siege weapons.
And that also what? Really? Doesn't that do double damage back then?
No, it does. It does like 3 to 6 times damage depending on the level of rogue. And I'll tell you what, you get that in with a ballista. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. You can also sneak attack if you've been eaten. That is a sneak attack because they're not suspecting it. That's how we killed.
That's an interesting justification to make that happen.
If something eats you, it doesn't expect a sword. Like, it's like, I ate you. I won. My rogue is like, nope, I'm not done yet.
So, Jay, you've DM'd a little bit too, haven't you?
Yeah.
So my question is for both of you, do you come up with the NPCs first? Like, you're like, I have this really interesting character I want to bring in. Or do you start with, like, I need to get them to this place, this location, and I need somebody to tell them to get their butts going or, like, force their hand a little bit? Like, are you doing it from, like, kind of the top down or from the bottom up?
Yes.
It really depends on what it is.
I want that to happen.
I mean, like, it depends on the situation, and I'm sure that's going to be the response there too. Is like if you have a situation where you have to roll, like, because any DM can tell you have this really beautifully laid out campaign, and within 5 seconds they see a goblin and they want to go chase the goblin, and it's like, that goblin doesn't have. Fine, we'll go chase the goblin. That's why you don't
put random things in the story itself.
God, everything has to be thought out.
They're like, "What's with the book?" And you're like, "It's just a book." They're like, "No, but what's with the book?"
What's with the book,
y'all?
So that is
special squirrel.
I will be honest though, as a DM, that is also one of my favorite things to do, is really F with people's heads when they find random things. They're like, "We're going to roll a gather information check on it." I'm like, "It's a book." Oh, but I got a 20. It's a book. They're like, "No, it can't be." I'm like, how far are we going to go down this path? Like, it looks suspicious.
By P.J. Roberts. It has a black leather with the gold inlay. It has a woman's handwriting and a soft scent of like a floral perfume. That's what they get with the 20.
Lavender, a rose.
It smells.
Rose-scented ink. You should scratch it. See if it smells more.
It's got a unicorn and it's got like a little trapper keeper thing on it.
Lisa Frank.
I would just start reading from any Nicholas Sparks novel. He longed for her the way no one could. Oh, how he wished to see her face.
But I guess the question too, I think, Green, maybe what you're kind of looking to for that was like, how do you build like from the what's the top? I think you said top down or bottom up. Mm-hmm. And so like the idea, I mean, because that and Morgan, we kind of had this conversation too. Is like, it kind of really depends on what you're going for. If you're doing like an RPG type thing, I find it beneficial to build from top down. Whereas if I'm like writing a story, I I personally build from top down because it makes sense to me, because I that's the way my brain kind of puts pieces together. But I know that a lot of times, because, well, the other problem is if you build from bottom up in an RPG, or actually in a story, in my experience, you introduce a lot of chances for continuity problems, because you're building from a very specific. So when I say bottom, I guess I should probably explain that. If you build from bottom up, you're basically saying, okay, this is the group, they're going to go to this town, and then, you've only built that town. And then as they continue their quote unquote adventure or campaign, you continue to build out. So you're building literally from the bottom up. So you're building a world one town at a time, basically. Whereas if you build from the top down, you've built the world within which the party exists. The problem there is that the top down approach, if they take a sudden right degree turn that you weren't expecting, you have to be able to roll with punches really well. Whereas if you do that with a bottom up approach, you can accommodate for that a little bit easier. Would that be the best explanation of those two, Morgan, or do you have a easier way of explaining them?
For me, like, I like having a general idea of what the world is, just a generic blank slate, don't need much, and then from there pinpointing like various like maybe like general towns, like, oh, this is like a port town, this is like a big city, and then going further into that, I'm like, okay, this is where we're going to be. So like real hard Jackson Pollock, just throwing like paint on the wall, just sort of like, okay, this is what's there, this is what it's going to be, this is where we are right now. Like and then from there focus on the town they're in, the various like NPCs that I do place in. Some of them, like I said, I do session 0. So in this town that will start initially, they've sort of like also probably helped develop and create as well, because I like having their input on, various things. I'm not going to say call it being a lazy GM. I don't call it being a lazy GM, just because like I rather them have some sort of in the story itself than just like it all be on me, like,
Right. Like, you want your characters to feel like they can affect the world, whether it's in partial design or other things that are going on.
Mm-hmm, yeah. So, for example, like, for the start of season 3, like, my characters actually lived in a town. And so, like, their parents owned the bakery, and, like, like, we had, like a point of contact for them to come back to, and various other things like that. So, I do like having a generic, like, blank canvas is sort of like know the boundaries of the world, various points here and there, so just zooming in all the way into the town itself, and then from there picking out NPCs and whatnot.
Have you ever had NPCs that got away from you, like totally shifted and turned into something totally different than what you were expecting, based off of like the character gameplay or interactions?
Let's see here. I've had a few of them shift. I think one point within D&D, I had like this like warlock, or like this like not warlock. Where are they? The ones that read, the bunch of nerds, the wizards.
Wizards.
The ones that read.
Best explanation ever.
Hold on, let me figure that out. They had this wizard with them, and they were trying to help her out and stuff like that, and then eventually throughout the story, she actually reoccurred here and there and started becoming darker deeps of what's happening, because she was just being consumed by power. Mm-hmm. So eventually she became a nemesis to them eventually, that them and disappearing and all that. So
that's always kind of fun, though, because that not reoccurring villain, but that returning bad guy that wasn't a bad guy, that I don't know. Just, I think it's interesting how...
There's a reason that's a popular trope. I mean...
Right.
It's
like,
also
you stole my turnip. I will curse you.
Someone stole your sweet bread. It's also, I mean, to be fair, like from a character development standpoint, that's also kind of like a tacit fear that a lot of people have, is like, the people that you've invested time in and getting to know turn out to not be who you thought they were. I think that's the reason there's a visceral connection to that on an emotional level.
Definitely. And then they start suspecting everybody that they start coming into contact with, and
which means they start understanding the mechanisms. What?
Exactly.
I didn't say that at all. I totally would never encourage that type of paranoia in a character. All the time.
You played White Wolf, didn't you?
All the time.
Uh-huh.
No, now I understand. Mm-hmm. I too have played the White Wolf.
It's like, just safely assume that everyone is out to get you. That's just the safe assumption.
Pretty much. Have you? Speaking of White Wolf, random. Have you ever played Aberrant?
I've heard of it.
I have. Yeah, I haven't, but I have heard of it.
Really good.
I've heard very good things.
So about 10-ish years. Yeah, it's a fantastic game, and I enjoy superhero games, so like it was really fun.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would make sense. So I guess kind of jumping into like the design process for like populating the overall game worlds too. We've talked quite a bit about RPGs. Is there like what would you say is the big difference between designing? They're not really NPCs, but they're not like primary characters, I guess would be the best term for it. It's like secondary characters or background characters for a story. What's the major difference in like a narrative setting as opposed to a mechanical setting would be the best term for RPG?
Yeah. Well, are we talking about like for like writing novels and short stories here, or are we talking about for different types of gameplay?
Would there be a difference between the two?
Yeah, I was thinking stories, but Green has the better question as usual. Is what would the difference be between those two?
Yeah, well, honestly, not much, because like with how you design NPCs, you give them a name, you give them like some looks, you give them some brief sort of backstories that you can pull onto later. And with any sort of story or short story or anything like that you're designing, well, you have like a specific look that you do want to at least readers or players that they're, this is someone that, hey, I can always go back to later, or like, oh no, I know that person. They seem like they're shady and I don't want to deal with them. I do want to delve into that. You do have some pieces of their backstory plotted out that you can eventually dive deeper on. That make sense? Did I answer the question correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I answer the question at all?
I mean, it's one of those things like how much you have to balance out how much time you're developing the character and their world out versus the time that you need them to be spending in the game world with your player characters, right? You still have to. You don't have to come up with a giant backstory for Ted the tomato farmer if there's only going to be one tiny scene with him, right?
But you know what? Just in case, Ted has a family and he lives in there with his brothers and their wives, and Ted's looking for love, but it won't be brought up unless someone asks him to, like. Just that sort of thing. You have these ideas like, this is Ted. He's got a strong jaw and he stands about 5'10". Like, that's really what they'll know. And then eventually they dig deeper. You have these other things that you can like pass out to them to see if they want to like, or they're like, oh, okay, cool. And just sit it on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you're writing Ted's Tinder profile.
5'10", strong jawed.
Strong jawed. Knows his way around a tomato.
Knows his way around a tomato. Tender hands from all that hard work.
Is it a fruit? Hands. Is it a vegetable? We don't know.
But
find out together.
His passion is his fruit.
Oh,
love it. Yes.
Yes.
That's a good tagline.
Mm-hmm.
Should have led with that, Ted. So I think what I'm getting from it is the NPC can be as three-dimensional as you want them to be, or as the player wants them to be, I guess, right?
Yeah, like, as someone who does the designing, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, for example, the first game I ran for season 3 that I had was like, all right, cool, we're going to start at a wedding. Who's getting married? What do they look like? Who's who in the situation? Like, okay, we have the old lady that lives in the cabin. We have the 2 little gnomes that are getting married. Their parents are the marquis, so they're coming into town. Like, just who's who, what do they look like? And then if they want to dive deeper, then we can like start pulling back some of those onion layers and revealing who they are.
Do you have like a set number that you try to walk into any situation or any situation that your characters get into that you have planned out? Like, hey, they're in a bar. They need to know there's going to be at least 3 people in the bar that they're going to interact with. Or I'm going to have these basic things set up. Like there's the shady guy in the corner of the bar. There's the bartender. There's the wife of the bartender and stuff like that. Like you have a set amount that you really know that you want in that situation? Or is there just more of, as they scan the room, you're starting to add more characters in and developing them as the player characters want to interact?
I think I do the latter. I wait till they scan the room and then I bring in who is there. Like, of course, I'll like, there's the bartender or like some of the barkeeps like are, running around and passing drinks out to patrons. But it really depends on the setting I'm setting, like the scene I'm setting. Is it a crowded bar that's like lively at night with music and like people hollering or dancing? Or is this a bar that's, off the beaten path? It's a little more quiet and, really only has regulars that come in. So it really depends on where in the world you're putting said thing. And then, what's coming from it. Because you're not going to have on a random Tuesday night out in the boondocks, like going on. You might. You might.
It's Texas. You could. Bonfires?
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, it's more likely out in the boondocks out in Texas that you'll meet a tiger. So
That's Oklahoma. I remember.
Oh! I thought Justin's lying about his stats over there. Then
no, fake news.
Fake news. Oh gosh. Oh man. Okay, so what about developing a book or developing characters for a book? You kind of toss that out there just a tiny bit.
I think it's within the same prospects. Like, you're trying to figure out where your story is. So once again, are you in a big tavern on a weekend in a big city where it's going to be lively and outgoing? And there's a sea of faces that's blurring together at one point because the drinks are hitting you hard and there's just so much chaos happening. Movies that are like that, like, oh gosh, I can see them in my brain, but I don't know what scenes I'm seeing in my brain to say what movies are from. But basically, where you're like the city just rolls around you, and you're just like, oh, cool, I'm alive. Not sure what's going on, but
right.
Yeah. Where am I? Words, I have them. But yeah, it really depends. I have words; they are in my brain, bouncing around. Like, boy,
it's been a week. It's okay.
It's been my experience. They eventually make it out.
Sometimes
in the right order, probably not, but they'll make it out.
Just as like
that
was not a qualifier that you specified.
Yeah. Oh my gosh!
Most of them make it out.
It's a hostage situation.
Really optimistic horror movies.
Oh God!
Most of them make it out.
All right.
I don't. Yeah.
So the writing process for me, and this is, if I could just get this thing back on track, that would just be So the writing process for me kind of, and this is very oversimplifying, and it might be completely insulting, but it kind of almost feels like the choose your own adventure books from like when I was a kid. Almost like you've got to. You do have like a direction you're trying to go in, but you have to leave yourself outs and room for free will and choice to, you can't paint yourself into a corner and then they choose the wrong thing and then you're just, tackling ogres on fire.
Is it kind of like improv strategy, though? Like, isn't it like improv that you don't necessarily say no to whatever they're saying, which can lead to some very terrible situations, I get, but like when you're directing where the player characters, how often do you tell them no? Because it's real easy. I've only DM'd a few times ever, and it's real easy to just let them dictate everything going on and let them kind of take the reins and create this absolutely insane world. But what level do you actually kind of draw that line? Where do you stop that?
I think when it gets to areas where like they physically can't possibly do it, like, oh, like I'm going to lift this boulder. I'm like, I mean, you can try, but
good luck.
you're a gnome wizard, so I don't know if you've been putting the push-ups in or not, but like, give it your best shot. I believe in you.
Could you assign him a hernia? At that point?
I mean, if he rolls a 1, then yes.
Nice.
It just really, yeah. Like, I don't like saying no, but I'll say, instead of saying no, just with a period, I'll say no, comma, but.
Okay.
Try and see, or like, we can always give it a shot and see if it can happen. Like, I'm not gonna ever like deny someone the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Redirect it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your favorite story of a character taking an interaction with an NPC someplace completely different than where you intended it to go?
Oh gosh. Okay. So so I had these I think there was like, they were both gnomes or halflings, but they were getting married.
Of course they were. God.
Let me finish my story.
It's halflings. It's always halflings.
It was, I think they were gnomes or halflings. It was like a year ago. I don't remember at this point. But they were getting married. It was 2 women. One of them was named Poppy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, one of the guys instantly came smitten with one of the women. I was like, they're lesbians and they're getting married. He's like, I don't care. I love them. Like, you. and then the 2 got kidnapped by gnolls, and they had to go, like, basically their first level 1 adventure was go fight gnolls and save, the people. But he's always like, Poppy, my love. I was like, ooh.
Kind of fixating me, buddy.
Yeah,
right?
just to you. And then whenever they were able to help.
What do you have to roll to get a restraining order?
Maybe a knife to the shoulder or something.
Oh gosh.
And he never took it past that, thank goodness. But because I wouldn't allow it. That's one thing I wouldn't allow. I always at the beginning too, always put lines and veils down as a safety precaution. Be like, okay, what's everybody's line that we're not crossing? Like, can happen, but can be veiled by like be in the background or safety tools in general, and just checking in with them about like all that. Be like, all right, we're not hitting anybody's. Everybody's good. Everybody checking in. All right, cool.
Avoiding triggers for anybody.
Yeah, because this past couple days on Tabletop RPG in Twitter has been. Anywho, I don't want to get into that, but yeah.
So, okay, Blue or Justin, what was your favorite story of that happening while you guys have played?
Justin.
So, while I've never played D&D, or I don't think I've ever played any tabletop game, to be honest with you, and I feel like if I did, it would be like the Hindenburg. It would be fun to watch. Well, no, wait. That wasn't. No.
We're batting 100 tonight.
No, I just mean it would be eventful, but it probably would be very frustrating for someone who was both skilled and knowledgeable about that. So, okay. Blue,
your turn.
What I'm hearing, Justin, is we need to run a D&D game for you, and then see how that goes.
I think you'd have a great time.
Only if I can make my own character. It doesn't have to be my own plan.
Justin has to play the bard.
Justin would play the bard. He would be named. Never mind.
So, Blue, what story?
Oh, God. There's so many of them. Most of... Oh, jeez. There's, like, all the Star Wars shenanigans that we got up to. I'd probably say...
Star Wars or, like...
What's that?
D20 Star Wars?
D6.
Which type of Star Wars were you?
D6.
D6, okay.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. I would probably say it was when we tried to convince... So back to our character who decided to give the troll a bear hug while on fire. He was a ranger type, or he had a character that was a ranger, and that was the game that I was playing a rogue, and we tricked his animal companion into going into the bag of holding that he had. And we managed to convince the DM to allow it to survive because we kept opening the flap to let air in. And for about 3 like sessions, we had nearly had him convinced that the animal companion had run away, and like it was in his bag of holding. So like we were constantly like having excuses to go and open the bag of holding so that his animal, because you know like they're connected, so you'd feel if they die. And so it wasn't dead. So he was like, it's not dead. We're like, oh yeah, it just ran away, and it was a wolf. So none of us could actually like get in the bag of holding because it would attack us. But we managed to keep it in. Like it was just. And our GM, I'm pretty sure after the first session, he was like, "I'm literally just interested to see how far this goes, like how long you all can keep." And it was like, I'm impressed how well the group had a cohesive lie going for months because it was multiple sessions. And when he finally figured out, he was not happy with us.
Probably not.
But it was probably one of the funnier moments of what we've done, because he was the character that we were always flip-flopping tricks on each other. So because like in the other campaign that we were running, he was the rogue, and so my character in the D&D campaign would constantly be getting his character in trouble. And so then in our Star Wars game, his character was like the scoundrel, and he would constantly be getting us in trouble that we'd have to get ourselves out of. And so it was just like this constant, like, you know, given depending on which campaign we were playing, one of us was getting the other person in trouble, and it was just how badly could we get each other in trouble and then get out without getting hurt. That was the running gag, I guess, if you will. But yeah, it was mostly just seeing, you know, like what you could get away with. We were really good at that.
I only ran one game ever, and it was fairly short-lived, so it's been a while. I don't remember we were all inexperienced, all noobs trying to run a game together. It's not pretty.
No, that's why they have cookie cutter campaigns.
Right, which is fine, but I like to be difficult. I don't know if you.
I'm not going to comment. There is no victory comment to make on that statement. That. I don't know. News. I'm going to agree with Justin. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Be difficult. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of.
Look, Green, you're not difficult. You're challenging.
I'm okay with that. Maybe a little special. It's fine.
You're prestige mode.
Oh,
survivor mode. Yeah,
fancy. I like it. Prestige. Yeah. Sorry, I'm like concentrating.
Well, I mean, I guess the question too is like, as far as like, so you said you like D&D to introduce people to role playing, Morgan. What would you like to evolve them to? I guess is what's your preferred style?
My preferred style is Powered by the Apocalypse Games, which I'm happy to be running a podcast on now. Basically, Powered by the Apocalypse Games is an engine 2d6 system. So basically, all you roll is 2d6 or 2d side 6, and then you add or subtract various stat numbers, which you probably have like at most 5 stats overall. Fail because 1 or less than 6 is a failure, 7 and 9 is mixed results, and then 10 plus is passing, flying colors. But if you fail, you still get experience.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because you could still try to do the thing, but you fail, but you know, you don't get what you want now, but you'll at least get the experience to do
not do it that way next time.
So, yeah, or to like learn as a person and grow and eventually get advancement points and like, yeah, or that. Powered by Apocalypse Games has tons of various games like Mask, which is a teenage superhero game. So basically, you're playing like Teen Titans.
Oh no!
It's really fun. I actually just finished running that for the podcast, and you have like, you know, and what's good too about that is that you have playbooks to play off of instead of, you know, races and classes and backgrounds and all that. You just pick this playbook that says, all right, I want to be the Doom character. I want to be like Raven from Teen Titans or like.
But is it Raven?
Starfire.
Is it Teen Titans or Teen Titans Go?
Yes.
Nice. That is the correct answer.
I mean, I've never seen Teen Titans Go, but it looks cute.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's amazing.
You can tell who has small children.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have any children, and I'd watch it.
Such a spirited debate about burgers versus tacos.
Oh my
burgers
gosh.
versus burritos. Yeah.
You mean you haven't sat with my friends about talking about like what's a sandwich like?
Oh no. Justin has had the what is a sandwich debate.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you what it's not.
Many times.
Tell you
A hot
what
dog?
it's not. It's not a hot dog. That's right, Doom. Love you to death, but it's not a hot dog.
But oh shoot, I forgot. But yeah, you'll have like Mass, for example. Various games like called Monster of the Week, for example, where you play like a show for like Supernatural or X-Files or something like that, where you'll like you basically play like the agent or like the conspiracy theorist or like the mundane who's kind of just like you're from Buffy and you're just like, hey, I'm here. Oh, there's just a werewolf over there. There's no big deal.
I'll just be the knowledge base for the entire freaking game world. It's fine.
Yeah, and you have various people like that. There's other games too. One that I played, it's that I really enjoy. It's called Night Witches. It's by Jason Morningstar. It's based off the World War II, I think. Women fighter jets from Russia.
Oh yeah, Russia, yeah.
Yeah, and basically you play as a unit that's basically having to deal with the societal strains of like materials and the war. And we actually played within like a 4-group unit. So basically there was like one big game and there's 4 different tables all playing various units together. We would steal each other's parts or like block each other in. So there's like this like rivalry as well. Like, oh, well, we're the better unit than you are. Like blah, blah, blah sort of thing. Another game that I play that's called Root. It's basically based off the board game. If y'all have seen the board game at all.
No. I don't know that one.
So there's a board game called Root, Root.
Oh, okay.
Board game where you play as little woodland creatures, and it's D&D-esque, where you'll play a creature and then like you'll figure out like what type of creature you'll be. But like I played the possum vagrant, so I was like a loud, obnoxious possum the whole game. It was
nice.
There's just various games. Like the system has gone and like thrown off the deep end, and I've really enjoyed that just because the system's so. And since you're given playbooks, you can just build a character within 10 minutes. And then on top of that, the games also allow for happen. So like your city building and like getting to know each other because all the playbooks have connections on them. So they'll basically be like, okay, so and so, you'll have to guess. All right, cool. I don't trust this person because of this, and then y'all will talk about the conversation like, oh, this is what happened, and so y'all have this one little bit of history together, and it puts it into the game itself, so it's allowed to be there, so you have it. And
have you ever played House on Haunted Hill? I think it's House on Haunted Hill. There's a lot of like games out there right now that have these role character type things where you have a basic role and you're supposed to role play it as you play it, but there's still a clear objective to it. Problem is the one that comes to mind is actually one that is a little too real at the moment in this pandemic.
Oh yeah, so I think you're talking for board games. I think you're talking about Betrayal: A House of the Hill.
Yeah, that one.
Haunted House on the Hill, the Netflix show. But they're very similar, so I understand that. I've played, I think, Betrayal at Baldur's Gate, which is the D&D-esque version of the House on the Hill one.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely interesting because you're given like your character and like your stats, and you have to go through and explore, and then eventually the twist happens, or the omen, or whatever it's called, happens.
Right.
Go off of that. With board games, though, that I find there's a disconnect within the story itself, because role-playing games, you role-play the story. Board games, you're just playing the game and trying to beat the objective. That's how I feel.
This is
story
true.
to it, but like I don't really see, it doesn't really come into the forefront when you play.
I mean, it can be, depending on the group.
Oh yeah, definitely could be. But for the most part, people are like, all right, cool, I'm the betrayer now, let me just read this and trying to get like to this one point so I can summon the demons. Like, all right, yeah, and we're gonna do this thing. Like, all right, cool.
Unless you're playing diplomacy.
Oh, I've heard that game breaks friendships.
It does. It's
Monopoly breaks friendships.
That is also true.
No, Monopoly ruins families. Diplomacy just ruins friendships.
Trying to think of, there's so many other ones out there. Like one of them that I used when I was teaching was Once Upon a Time, which
I love Once Upon a Time.
Right? It's a really cute, really easy to use card game /
storytelling game.
Yeah, it's a storytelling game.
That's what I really liked about it too, is because it is a storytelling game. Because you're participating, working together to actually like. That's what I love about. I like using that sort of aspect within my game design too, because I want everybody to like feel like they're part of the story. Using something like that definitely could help. Maybe I should look into using it for a game eventually, like maybe building lore or something off of the stories that we tell.
Mm-hmm. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you guys want to wrap up this particular session and then jump right back into like a more detailed breakout of the different styles as far as like tips and tricks for the collaborative and mechanical stuff?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you guys, or Morgan, do you have any shout outs for us for this episode, for the intro episode?
Oh, you can just follow me on Twitter at SirenaBesos, SirenaBesos.
Shout out your podcast again for our listeners too.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm part of the Roleplay Network with Powered by the Players, which is a Powered by the Apocalypse game actual play podcast where we have a rotating cast of diverse players.
Nice. Justin, do you have any shout outs?
Yeah. What up? Shout out to Blue and Green and Morgan, aka Serena, for putting up with me tonight, even though I know I don't know next to nothing. I know nothing about the topic. Big shout out to my son, who is the one of the newer Focus Fire Chat fans. I was literally on Spotify, kind of scrolling through trying to find some music, and Focus Fire Chat episodes were like just littered through my Spotify recents, and turns out he's been like stealth listening to back episodes for about like 3 months now.
Aww.
Yeah, a little bit longer than that. So
it's a sign. It's a sign, Justin.
It is. It caught me. It caught me right in the feels, and I said, man, I gotta catch up with those guys. So I appreciate y'all letting me jump right back in, even though I don't know that I added much. I might have subtracted a little. So
math is hard. It's good.
But anyways, yeah, and shout out to Pins and everyone in chat, and everyone's been awesome. Kind of welcoming me back. After my long walk in the wilderness. So love you guys. It's great to see everybody.
We missed you, Justin.
Right back at
you. Shout outs for me. Shout outs kind of just in general out there to the entire cosmos at this point, that it seems like even though everything's super, super crazy going on in real life, I've seen more happiness from people. There's like obviously pockets of like the going on, but I've seen more happy news and people having good reactions, good reconnections with family, good reconnections with their spouse or their partner or whatever, which is awesome. And yeah, we are going to get through all of this BS together. It's not going to be pretty, but we're going to get there. Blue, your turn.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to just double down on what Green said, and then also welcome Justin back. Hopefully we can get a habit building for him. Maybe we can get him back next week. If not, then I'll just message his little one and tell him, hey, start listening to episodes again.
And start bugging your dad.
We need structure.
Oh, God. Yeah, we'll have to get you added back to the show notes so you can see the structure.
10-4? Yeah, well, I didn't look at it before, so this is This is very helpful on your part. I think there was like 2 or 3 weeks when Blue was underwater at work for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I had to actually write the show notes. And even when I wrote the show notes, still didn't look at them.
That's pretty awesome.
Justin, did you open the show notes? The what? The show notes. What are those?
They're color-coded. Well, that sounded like it took a long time.
Man. Yeah, we missed you, Justin.
No, I missed you guys too, man.
But
so, yeah, great to be back. And go ahead, Blue.
Okay, well, as always, thank you for your time, and until next time, remember, with wisdom we conquer, stand strong, stand tall, and keep exploring. With that, we'll begin to wrap the chat up. Thank you again to those over on Twitch for coming to spend your evening with us. If you'd like to join us for the live streaming of the episodes, please be sure to give us a follow over on twitch.tv/FocusedFireChat. Links to all our episode archives can be found at www.thelorenetwork.com. Please be sure to email us at focusedfirechat@gmail.com with any comments and or questions for the team concerning the podcast, and let us know how we're doing by giving us some feedback and a rating over on iTunes as well. So until next time, focus your fire and may your light shine bright.